All right. Thanks for everyone being here. This is a really enjoyable topic for me. And this is one thing I get really excited about. So I'm really happy to do this. This is going to be a lot of information. We're going to go through it quickly so that we have enough time to do the demo. And we did test out the demo at the beginning. It worked fine. And then I just did it again recently, and it didn't seem to connect, and that's kind of typical for WinLink, but most of the time it's pretty reliable, and so we're gonna give it a shot. If it doesn't work, we have a video that I made that shows exactly what the connection looks like, so we can see it in operation. Next slide. So that's just a slide of to remind us that we are part of the North Carolina AUXCOMM, that in Chatham County, we're working through the EOC, and we're helping, we assist the EOC, but we're all tied into all of North Carolina, and that is the new symbol for North Carolina AUXCOMM through the state. Next slide. So I want to go through quickly the items that I want to cover. A lot of this I won't cover in great depth, just to introduce it, but we can always go back and ask questions, and it's ripe for further topics later. So what is WinLink? Why do we use it in AUXCOMM? Why is it important? What are the different modes of use of WinLink? There's several different ways to use it. A little bit about the terminology, because you're going to hear a lot of terminology, so I'll go through that quickly. How WinLink works, the equipment that's required, the software that's required, and then a little bit about RMS and CMS, and you'll learn what those are when we hit the technology. Next slide. What are the features of this? This is more of the agenda. Features, how does it work? What can you do with WinLink? What are its limitations? Because there are limitations. What extensions? What are the different capabilities that can be added into WinLink that are built in? A brief note about radiograms. That's one of the features. How do we send an SMS text through WinLink? Because we can do that. We can send a text through the radio and hit your cell phone. A little bit about field situation reports. Those are also known as spot reps, and what they are, how they're used. And we actually had this past Saturday, that's the assignment I gave to the Chatham County folks, is to send a field situation report. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Additional trading, where you can get more information about WinLink if you get so excited about it. What are some additional things beyond WinLink? Some really nice pieces of software that does many of the things that WinLink does, but in a different way, and that's VAR AC. And then a little bit about the WinLink course, and then we'll have a demonstration, hopefully. Okay, what is WinLink? WinLink's a way of sending email and data files through radio. That's helpful if you don't have internet. One group that uses WinLink a lot is sailors. Well, they're out in the ocean. There's no internet, but they're sending out emails. They're getting weather reports. All that stuff's available through WinLink. Next slide. We use WinLink in AUXCOMM because when we're deployed either at an exercise or a real event, based on FEMA regulations, we need to provide documentation for legal reasons, for historical reasons, just so that we know what happens. A lot of that documentation is built into WinLink, and it's really easy to do that. Also, for WinLink, we can send notes. We can send data in terms of a spreadsheet. We can send pictures. Obviously, because of the limitations, and it's kind of like sending over a 56K modem, if you remember that, you were really limited to how big a file you could send. Well, that's true with this too. But there are ways in WinLink to basically pare that down so we can still send pictures and other small files. Next slide. Operating modes, RMS. we'll cover that with the technology, but RMS is a remote message station, and that's the traditional way that we send it. But you can also send it, and the RMS does require that you have internet, at least in the site where the RMS is. If you don't have internet where you are, but you can reach an RMS via the radio, you can still send that message, and then it goes into the internet. Again, you can send it out to whoever you desire it. If you don't have internet, we can use radio only. And some of that may be limited to if you have a backdoor modem, which we're not really going to talk much about, but that is a hardware way of connecting in through the radio. The other way is software-based, and there are two of those. One is called RDOP, that's built into WinLink, and the other is VAR-AC. The advantage of VAR-AC is that the connections are much faster, as they are with backdoor modems. They're as fast as you're going to get, and with the backdoor modem, you can actually get it a little bit above that 56K connection. And we already talked a little bit about the internet. You don't need to have internet where you are locally. The sailors obviously don't have it, but you do need it where the RMS stations are if you're going to use that mode. Next slide. Terminology. You'll hear this all the time, and I'll refer to that, but these are what they mean. And the further we go, if you need a refresher of what that is, just raise your hand and stop me. P2P is a peer-to-peer or packet-to-packet. I've seen it labeled both ways, but that's a way to connect radio to radio or WinLink station to WinLink station. SMS ID, that is your low-level identification. Usually that's your call sign. The WL2K, that is the standard way that you get into RMS gateway. You're connecting to that remote message server. And that is usually done through HF. The RMS packet is done through VHF, UHF. I've not done a lot of that. It's possible, but in our area, we don't have a lot of UHF, VHF, RMS stations. The closest one that I know of is in Carthage, and I can't hit it from my house. I live in the northern part of Chatham County. There are some folks in Pittsburgh that tell me they can hit it. So it's a simple process to convert that HF to a VHF, and you can do that through VARA. Tri-mode is the HF, and usually that's just the RMS. Tri-mode is just considered RMS because that's how most people connect through WinLink, as well as directly through the internet. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a quick minute. So I mentioned RMS is the remote message server, and then the CMS is a common mail server, and I'll show you graphically how those all connect. Next slide. The WinLink system is all of that, but the conventional mode is the RMS, which connects to the CMSs. CMSs are main servers. There are 5 of them located around the world. They're located in Halifax, in Vienna, in Brentwood, Tennessee, in San Diego, and Perth, Australia. The reason that there are 5 is redundancies. So if you send it to an RMS, it's going to send it to a CMS, and then all those CMSs talk and they all replicate. So if I wanted to send a message to somebody in Australia, probably what would happen is I would connect to the RMS. It would go to probably Halifax or Brentwood. All of the CMSs would talk to each other and populate that, and then whoever was that I was sending to in Australia would connect to their RMS, which would probably connect to the Perth CMS, and they would get my message. And that basically is how it works. Next slide. We've already covered a lot of that already. The CMS is the conventional mode. If you don't have internet, you can use a radio only, or you can use a peer-to-peer. And I have a graphic that'll show that a little bit better. Next slide. So this is the conventional mode. You'll see at the bottom, those are the clients. And the bottom three on the left, that is a radio which connects in via HF, and that can either be through a Pactor modem or through VHF. Also, it works the same way if you're using the UHF, VHF packet. Those will connect to the RMS gateway, which is connected to the internet. And then, as I said before, those will talk to the common message servers, which there are 5 of them, and there are only 2 that are shown there. You'll notice Amazon 1 and Amazon 2. The backbone of that is run through the Amazon system, so that's why that's there. You'll notice on the right-hand side, though, there's a telnet connection. So you don't need to connect via radio. And there are certain times when you won't want to connect via radio, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. You can connect directly through the internet, through telnet, which is basically an internet connection, and then it will connect directly to the CMS. And then it goes into the system the same way. It can then go out through an RMS, or whoever's receiving your message may also connect through telnet. It doesn't matter. You can mix and match. Next slide. That's just a graphic of the common message servers. They all talk to each other. You'll see sometimes one will be down or 2 may be down. They do maintenance on it on a regular basis, but that's the redundancy factor. It's built into the system, and I don't think there's ever been a time when all of them have been down. Next slide. So this is the radio only method. If we had an internet outage through, let's say, half of the US, and you couldn't reach an RMS, then that is connected to an internet that you wanted to send a message beyond that, the one way to do it is to connect to whatever RMS that you can. It won't be connected to the internet, and it will leave a message. To do that, you need to identify, before this happens, what 3 RMSs you can connect to easily. And as you begin to use WinLink, you'll find that certain RMSs are easy to hit and some of them are impossible. And that could be band conditions, it can be your radio, it can be the direction of your antenna. There's all kinds of reasons, but you'll find that there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 that you can hit regularly. For me, I can tell you, I can hit, there's one in South Carolina right on the border in Seaview, South Carolina. There's one in Oxford, North Carolina that I can hit that's close. There's one in Nashville, Tennessee that I hit on a regular basis. And then my distance one is, there's one in Halifax. And what's nice about that is that's where the CMS is. So that's a real short connection there. But I can hit that regularly. And I'm using, I have a 7300, so I can use 100 watts. Usually, this is a digital mode just like FT8. You don't want to overpower it because you'll distort your signal. You want to go in with as little as power as possible. So I'm using usually 10 watts. When we did the connection tonight, I forgot to hook up the battery, which means I was running on 5 watts and I was hitting South Carolina, no problem. So what you'll do is you'll send it to an RMS, and if they can connect to the other RMSs, they will, to the 3 that you have. You need to identify those beforehand, and the people that you need to talk to, which would be, for example, the state EOC or the county EOC, if you were not at the EOC, they would need to know which one, so that they connect up to those RMSs, and then they can get the message. And that's how it would work without internet. Then there's one other way to do it without internet. Next slide. You can connect radio to radio. This is incredibly powerful because your limitations on the size of your files become much bigger because you're devoted. You're not going through the internet. You're making a direct connection. And so you can spend a lot more time connecting to that radio. So your files can be a lot bigger. I've often hit Fred Gavilio in Pittsburgh with peer-to-peer, and Ed Neely And they both of them, I think Fred lives about 15 miles from me. Ed lives about 10 miles from me, and we can connect no problem at all. It's a slick system. But there is an issue with that. You need to sort of identify how you're going to do it, because you need to know what frequencies and you need to know when you're going to connect. Because if you don't have internet, you probably don't have cell phone. So you need to have all that stuff kind of worked out in advance. And that's where a PACE plan comes in place. Okay, next slide. What equipment do you need? Well, you need a personal computer. Windows is preferred because the software that has all the templates, and that's the one you want to use, is WinLink Express, and that's a Windows-based system. You need a transceiver. HF for our area is the best, and that's if you're not using Telnet. And of course, there are, as I mentioned, there are times when you would want to use Telnet, and I'll mention that later. You'll need a sound card or a TNC. That's either going to be software or hardware based. The Pactor modem is the hardware version of that, and VAR AC with the sound card in the computer is the software based or the hardware based. And just a reminder, internet's not required if you're using the radio only or the P2P, but it is required in the conventional mode. Not where you are, but it has to be where the RMS is. So if you have an internet outage in North Carolina, you could hit Nashville, Tennessee, or Halifax, Canada, and no problem. Get your message out. Next slide. There are two software modems. RDOP is built into VAR AC. It's built into WinLink Express. It works. It's slow. VAR HF or VAR FM. When you buy VAR has a paid version and a free version. When you and they have it for HF and FM, and that's how you would. The FM is how you would hit UHF, VHF. I strongly recommend that you pay $69 for the license, because if you do that, VAR HF will perform equivalent to Pactor on the amateur frequencies. A Pactor modem can run on 4 speeds, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 is not legal on FCC. It is legal under shares, if you have shares. And of course, the sailors can use it to the Marine bands. But there are times in an emergency when the FCC will say, you can use Pactor 4, and that opens up the speed quite a bit. So it almost doubles the speed. But the VAR HF works fantastic, and it's equivalent to a Pactor 3, and which is good. Next slide. WinLink features. It's basically an email client. That's what it is. Inside that email client, though, you can send catalog requests. Sailors do that all the time. They want to get weather reports. They want if you're deployed in a emergency for a hurricane and you're at a shelter and you want to know what the weather report is, and the radio system's down, the internet's down, you can send a catalog request for a weather report. You can get a satellite picture. That'll be sent over the radio. That's all built into the system. There are a bunch of message templates built into the system. Those are all of the FEMA ICS forms are pretty much in the system. And that's where the spot reps come in. A spot rep, which is also the field situation report, that is a way for you to identify what is and isn't working locally. Is the cells working? Is the TV radio working? Do you have no weather radio? Is the public power working? Is the water system working? All that's built into a form. And there will be times when you may get a request, we may get a request that the EOC wants to know what's available locally, infrastructure-wise. So they may ask us to send it out. The exercise that I gave the Chatham AUXCOMM meeting people last Saturday was to send out a simulated field situation report, because we have a Sharon Harris exercise coming up that's for the relicensing of Sharon Harris. And one of the things that may come up that might be asked would be, have everybody who's at their home send out a field situation report, what infrastructure is or isn't working. They obviously wouldn't have a Geiger counter, so you couldn't do radiation levels, but you can tell, is the internet working? Do they have power? What about the water and you know, the local infrastructure? So that, and they may ask us to send that out on an hourly basis or every 2 hours. That wouldn't be an uncommon request. The last time I got a real, it was a spot rep at that point, was I was working as an election assistant in Chatham County during the 2020 election. And we got a request from the state EOC to report anything that we saw that was of concern violence-wise, to send a spot report back to the state EOC, because they wanted to know. Radiograms, the last thing, that is an old system. It's built in. It's like a telegram, and you can. Those are still available. You can still send them out. It's the typical, you know, you're limited to 20 words or whatever it is, but it works, and it's pretty neat. Next slide. What are the limitations? Speed. It's like a 56K modem, or maybe double that with the higher speeds than VAR HF or Pactor 3 or 4. The size of your files are also going to be limited, so you need to send things as compactly as possible. That means if you're sending a Word document, send it as an RTF, not as a Word, not as a DOC or DOCX. If you're sending data, don't send it as a spreadsheet, send it as a CVS file. They're much smaller. If you're sending a picture, you take a picture with your phone, they're big. There's a way inside WinLink, and we won't cover it tonight, but I can tell you how to do it. It's quite easy to actually reduce the size of the file by taking out pixels, and you can also crop it. And that's one of the things that we did when we got together last time. Next slide. So there's a bunch of forms in template forms. One of the things that's always required at the end of your shift, if you're helping out the emergency management, is to generate an ICS 309. A 309 is a log of all the connections that you've made. WinLink does that automatically. Any connection that you make, it keeps a record of it, and it'll what you sent out and what you received, and you can limit it on date and time, or you can do everything from the very beginning. So and it's very complete. So it is exactly what's needed, and it saves a ton of keeping track of extra things when you're in an exercise or an incident. I mentioned the catalog requests before, weather reports, satellite pictures, that kind of thing. Standard templates for the ICS forms that you might send, the standard message forms, the spot rep forms, and there's a bunch of forms that are built in. And I don't remember exactly why I have that RMS specific for oh, I know what that is. So if you're in emergency communications, there are specific RMSs for that. You may want to, if you have an incident, connect to some of those. Shares also has their own RMSs, and I know I can't talk about Shares, but that's another tremendous functionality of WinLink, is that you can use that inside Shares. You're not limited to ham frequencies, and that is the system that's commonly used in emergency management. So it's very helpful, and they have their own RMSs. They're built into the system. You won't cross-contaminate it, so there's not an issue there. But you do need to know about them. Okay, next slide. We talked about radiograms. They're teletypes. They're short, and you really only want to use them for emergencies because they do tie up the system. And that's all I want to say about that. How do you send a message through WinLink? Well, you do it the same way you would as you were sending an email. Basically, you have to know the provider of the person that you're sending it to. But if you're on Verizon, you would put in the phone number at vtex.com, and it'll go right to their SMS on their phone. AT&T, it's the same way, except it's txt.att.net. T-Mobile, similar. All the other providers also have that same functionality. I found that these tend to be the 3 most common carriers for cell phones in this area. But if you have your phone is on a different provider, look it up in the internet. It's there. Next slide. Field situation reports. When we get to the demonstration, I'll show you what one looks like, but it is a template. It's usually requested by the state EOC or your county EOC. Though, if you're doing this as a request, you don't want to send a blue sky report. Well, what's a blue sky report? Everything's okay. The sky is blue outside. You only want to send it if something is not working, unless requested otherwise. The one huge advantage to the field situation reports or spot reps is there's a mapping feature with it. So part of that message you put in your GPS, and depending on what the responses are, if you have a cell phone outage or an internet outage, and you get all these field situation reports sent to you at the county EOC, you can then map and see where the outages are, what's working, what's not in certain areas. So it's incredibly helpful. This is the time that you may want to send it via Telnet. Why would you want to send it by Telnet? If there's an internet outage in part of your county, you don't want to tie up the radio because somebody else may need it. So if you have internet and somebody else doesn't, you want to send it via Telnet. You don't want to tie up the radio waves. That's when you want to send it with Telnet. The other issue with Telnet is technicians can use it. It's no problem. Otherwise, you can't. If you're a technician, you can't send it via HF. You need at least a general, if not an extra. But Telnet's no problem. You do need an amateur license because that is one of the, when you register with WinLink, they will ask you for your call sign. So you do need an amateur license, but a technician is fine. And it's used primarily to identify infrastructure outages, as we mentioned before. Next slide. Additional WinLink training. So you've heard a little bit about WinLink. You're interested. How do I get more information? Well, you can join us when we do our training. The last training we did was this past Saturday, and we don't do it on a regular basis, but we do it kind of as needed. In Chatham County, we've identified 3 areas that we want all of our folks to be really competent with. WinLink is one of those. So we do a good amount of WinLink training. The other 2 are analog, which everybody should be able to do, and DMR. So that was DMR is relatively new to us. We have a DMR repeater now. Most of our folks often have a hotspot as well. And so DMR is another important feature for us to be comfortable with. Additional WinLink training, there's a bunch of YouTube videos. That's a great place to learn about WinLink. And then, of course, there's a bunch of websites. There are several weekly exercises that exist around the country. There's a WinLink Wednesdays. There's a group in Virginia. And every Wednesday, you join their group, they will send you out what it is. It's usually a short message to send there. It's just to keep your WinLink skills up. But they will also do peer-to-peer from time, and they have people sending from all over the world. It's not just Virginia. They run it out of Virginia, and that's where it started, but they're getting messages from all over the world. There's also WinLink Thursday. That is American Red Cross based, and they do, it's not every week, but it's every other week or once a month. But their exercises are challenging, so that's a good one to do also. Next slide. Oh, go back to slide before. One thing I didn't mention is the NC terms. NC terms is the state emergency management training system. It's for police, fire, emergency management, but that includes AUXCOMM. And one of the courses in there is an AUXCOMM course. It's really a really good course to take. To get into the course, you need to have your 4 FEMA courses, the 100, 200, 700, 800. You'll need to be registered in the database. Once you do that, it's a self-directed course, and it starts from you knowing nothing. You don't even have WinLink installed on your computer, and you go through, and by the end of the course, you'll be an expert. It's and slide or two more, I'll go through exactly the topics that are covered. Next slide. Future for WinLink. Well, I mentioned VAR-AC. VAR-AC is another piece of software to connect in. They connect also HF or UHF, VHF. It has all of the features that WinLink does, but it also has a message board kind of thing. So it's a direct connection. Originally, it was only a peer-to-peer. They've now added it so you can have multiple computers talking at the same time, multiple stations talking at the same time. So it's really an advantage. It was written by Irad Deutsch, who's based between Germany and Israel, but one of the other developers is Gary Mitchelson. He's a very well-known, used to be the Eastern North Carolina branch for North Carolina, the coordinator for the eastern part of the state. He's very well respected in emergency management and AUXCOMM circles. And so if he's involved with that, I'm comfortable that that's a good thing. The advantage to VAR-AC also is it's kind of like FT8 in that you can go to PK report and see all the other stations. So you can see who you might try to connect based on distance. It's identified very much like that, and that's also a feature in WinLink, a mapping feature. I mentioned it's chat based with a bulletin board kind of interface, but you can also send pictures and files just the same as WinLink. There's also canned messages that are built in and beacon features, so you can test propagation as well, and that kind of has the same features as Whisper, but it has in fact the same limitations of WinLink, the file sizes and whatnot. Next slide. These are the topics that are covered in the WinLink NC Terms course. It's an introduction, basic installation, getting on the air, and that's if you have a Pactor modem, it's not required that you have one, but if you have it, you can use that or RDUP or VARA. VARA used to not be as good as it is now, and I was Pactor modem all the way. I didn't want to touch anything else. VARA has improved a lot, and now I'm equivalent whether VARA or Pactor. They're both great. Pactor, the problem with that is a piece of hardware and it's expensive. The next topic is settings using messaging basics, which is somewhat like email, but then it's also using the templates, sending pictures, the files, and limitations. You're required to make a P2P connection. You'll send out a radiogram, so you see how that works. You'll do requests for catalogs, and there's a white whitelist feature in WinLink that'll prevent you from getting spam. But also you have to be aware of that, because you cannot send a WinLink message to yourself in WinLink. It won't allow you to do that, but there's a way to test it. So there is a way around that, but it shouldn't be used other than just testing. You'll use the WinLink hybrid system, where you're going to the RMS but not using the internet, and then there's a final exam where you put all that stuff together. And it's challenging, but you're given 2 months to finish all the topics, and it's self-paced, so you do it at your own pace. So there's no meeting; it's just working from your home. Next slide. Okay. Now the rubber meets the road.
Okay. Mike is getting his stuff set up there. If there's any questions, I'll bring the microphone around so people can ask them. Dee has a question. Let me just make one comment and get a number. Probably Steve can answer this question too, or Mike. We talked about Pactor modem and we talked about VARA. How much is a Pactor modem? 1,000?
It was 1,500 when I bought mine. I don't know how much they've gone up since then.
Okay, the answer was $1,500. Sorry about that, folks on Zoom. So you got
always work.
Okay.
They do always work. Absolutely.
It's the best thing I've ever spent.
So
now,
it's $69
do you
for
have
VARA software.
Which version do you have? There's 2 versions now. Okay. There are 2 versions now. The USB 3, I think, won't go to Pactor 4. Will only go Pactor 3.
Correct.
There are 2 that will go to Pactor 4, and that is a 7800 or a 7400. The 74, the prices have dropped. So the 7400 is now about 900, and the 7800 is 12 or 1300, I think. However, you don't have to buy them new. You can buy them through eBay. So I haven't spent more. Well, I have a 7800 and I spent about 900 for it. And I have I bought a 7400, which I've sold to somebody else, and I bought that for 600. So you can do.
Okay. I hear you, but
it's still expensive.
It is. It's very expensive. So I'm kind of looking at, if indeed you want to put together a Go kit for yourself, okay, or to play around with this at home, and you're new to ham radio, well, you need a radio to start out with, okay, and then you got to have the computer. Well, we probably all have that, but to get your feet on the ground, do you spend anywhere between $700, $800 and $1,500, or $69 for the software? You know, I mean, I know where I would look pretty quickly, and I've got tens of thousands of dollars invested in ham radio equipment, but I'd go $69 for software, or even free. D had a question. Let me go over to D with his question.
Yeah, maybe I missed something, but the VAR AC, is that a parallel system, or does it fully integrate with the WinLink? I mean,
I'm sorry.
The VAR AC, is that sort of a parallel system? It does the same things, or does it actually talk to
It's
WinLink?
a different piece of software. VAR AC is.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your answer.
The VAR AC is a different piece of software.
And they don't talk to each other.
So that VARA HF is your terminal connection. You would use that instead of a Pactor modem. VAR AC is a completely different piece of software.
Okay.
It's not WinLink.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, D. Okay, I think Mike is ready to go.
Yeah.
Now, just one comment. Those of you on Zoom may have a bit of an advantage here, which is new for those in the room. Those in the room, you can see how small the information is here on the screen. Those at home can blow your screen up a little bit, make it bigger, or get closer, because this is one of the many windows that are going to be up here very shortly as Mike walks us through the demo. So it's as big as we can get it.
Yeah.
So let me turn it over to Mike.
That is as big as we can get it. See. And I'm shy of one USB port, so I had to turn the camera off. I'd love to have the camera up at the same time to show the radio, but we're gonna do with just this.
Okay, everybody
Okay.
talk amongst themselves for a second. Mark thinks he has a solution for the camera. He's bringing another camera over. We do not have a shortage of cameras in the room tonight.
So it looks like a standard email client. I have already pre-positioned 2 email messages in the outbox. Oh, there it is. Can you do the radio? Yeah. Okay, good. This bottom one here is a field situation report. And if you click on the attachment, that is what a field situation report looks like. I've already filled it out. So you can see there's a to and a from. It's a good idea when you do a field situation report to send it to a standard source. This is my shares address. And that was part of the assignment. This is actually the assignment that I gave Chatham County on Saturday. They are required to send out 2 WinLink messages tomorrow. But it's a good idea to send it to yourself so that you know that it went out. And then these are the things that are helpful. I'm sending it from here, so it's from Eflin. This is the launch and lat of this room. POTS is plain old telephone systems, and I don't know if it's working, so we put unknown. If you don't observe what the infrastructure is working or not, then it's unknown. Cell phone I know is working because I'm running Zoom through my cell phone. And the text, we're going to find out if that's because we're going to send a text out. I don't know if AM, FM broadcast. So this is the, you go through the list: AM, FM broadcast, TV, satellite TV, cable TV, public waters, commercial power. Is it stable? Natural gas and internet. Yep.
Grab the top of it. Oh, it's already. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's running through Zoom because I'm sharing my screen. These are the items that they're built into an email, but it's also attached to a file, which then populates that HTML file, which comes up in a web browser. So I'm going to post that back to the box. This is a test of an SMS message. I'm sending one to Bruce, to Dan, to myself, and I'm also sending a confirmation of that to Dan's email address and my email address. And so we should see it pop up in our phone. So we're going to post that. So they are in the outbox. I don't have anything in the box. We're now going to make a connection. So I'm going to open up. Let me go back here. Well, what I was trying to do was open up the drop-down box so you can see all the different connections. So there's a backdoor modem, there's a telnet, there's the HF. So One thing that asks you is it asks you if if you'd like to update the propagation estimates, and you want to do that every time. So I'm going to update the propagation estimates, and I'll show you why that has an effect. It'll just take a minute because this is doing it through the internet. If you don't have internet, you can still update the propagation estimates. It does it through the radio, and if you do that, it takes about 20 minutes. Here it takes just a few minutes. Okay. You would then want to check, select a channel. These are the different RMSs, and these are the frequencies. These are the propagation estimates. So these are the top ones based on our location and the probability of hitting it via time of day and whatnot. You can also do this through a map. Here is a map of all the RMS stations. The green ones are ones that have a high probability that we'll be able to hit it. And you can see from the time of day, there's a lot we can probably hit. The red means it's very unlikely to hit. And the orange ones means that you probably can hit it, but it's a little less likely. There's my favorite up in Halifax. But we're going to try and hit this one right here, which is sea level, South Carolina. You can also save your favorites in this drop-down box and select it from here. So these are all the stations that I'm able to hit pretty regularly. There's this one here is Nashville. This is the one we're going to hit, South Carolina. And these two are Halifax. Let's go back to South Carolina. Well, come on. There. When you do that, you will have a dial frequency and a center frequency. Your dial frequency will, the software will connect to your radio, and it'll automatically set that connection. And we're going to start. Okay, so that didn't work. Sometimes rebooting helps. And I'm going to close down VARA. I'm restarting the radio and the connection. That's when you originally install it, you have to set it up for your radio and the modem that you're using, either VAR-HC or Pactor or whatever, and that all happens under settings. So this is the VAR window. Oh. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's do the it's yes.
Okay. Anticipating we might have a problem, we also have this pre-recorded. So it'll be a live presentation of a recording. So what's that, almost live? All right, give us a second here. Lori will bring it up. Okay, what we're gonna have to do is synchronize Lori starting this with Mike's words. So I'll just shut up and turn it over to him because this will automatically go.
You've got to start it by pressing that button. And then I'm going to have you stop it as we go along. So you basically see the same two messages, except that I actually create them here. The word test in there is the way to have it mirror back to your WinLink account. If you put in your WinLink account, which is basically your call sign, or if you had somebody send you a message, it would be your call sign at winlink.org. That would send it to your WinLink, but you cannot send it from your WinLink to back to your WinLink. But the way to get around that is by using the word test. And then it will basically mirror it back. Just if you're familiar with DMR, that's like a parrot. In the two, or you can put in the carbon copy. No, go ahead. Okay, so we've started a session. This has brought up the WinLink. You'll see here for this particular connection, this is a bandwidth of 500. Here we're populating the RMSs like we did before. And these are the connections. So you can see up here, it's actually updating those propagation estimates. And that's the map, which we've just seen. That particular day, there aren't many green. In fact, there aren't any green. That was a tough day, but we made a connection. And you'll see this one popped up here. That's the green level, South Carolina. So I'm making the connection and I'm starting it. And you'll see that it's calling it. On the radio, you'll actually see on the waterfall the connection. You'll also hear it. It's a digital sounding message. You'll hear it. It just made the connection. It will attempt to hit it 10 times. If it doesn't, then it fails. You'll also notice here this pattern. If the dots are green, that's good. That means you've got a strong signal. The stronger signal you have, the more distinct pattern you have. So that it can be a solid line at top and bottom, or you'll often see a crisscross. Now, this is not a blazingly fast connection, but it's still pretty good. And you'll see here, this is that was kind of a mix of green and yellow. Not as good a connection, but it's still sending a message. You'll also see a green bar going across. If it goes from left to right, that means it's sending a message out. If you're going from right to left, it says it's receiving a message. So that's whether it's transmitting or receiving. The red means it's not as good. You'll also see this is a narrow, this is a 500 hertz, kilohertz width. You'll also see some that are 2300. The 2300 will process it faster because you got more bandwidth. But again, you're taking up more bandwidth. And here you'll see these are the connections. And so that's a good signal. And yes, yes. Unless you lose your connection, which if your connection is not strong, you may lose it, and then it'll drop it. But then you'll see there'll still be some in the outbox.
The question for those of you on Zoom was, once you make the connection, will it process everything in your outbox? And the answer is yes. So if you had a whole bunch of stuff there, it'll process and send it all.
So this is basically a connection via HF. I'll show you that we'll also make a connection via Telnet, and you'll see the difference in the speed. That is on 40, I believe. Yeah. And it was in the middle of the day. Yeah, you'll find that most of the RMSs are on either 80 or 40. There'll be some that are on 20, but most of them are 40 and 80. And usually I can't tell that much difference from time of day. You can usually hit it pretty well during the day, even so.
Just a quick comment, if I've got time before Mike talks again. When we did this at my house, we did it on 40 meters, and it was probably 11 o'clock in the morning, and Mike was going to connect to the South Carolina RMS. And I'm a DXer and a contester. You're not going to get to South Carolina this time of day on 40 meters. We're going to go right over it. Wrong. This is not sideband or CW. This is FT8 like, and he had no problem connecting at all with my beam, 80 feet in the air. So no problem.
And then we hit Nashville right after that.
Straight up. There you go.
You almost hit the space station. So we're trying to make a connection again, and this one failed. So we're now going to attempt to make a connection via Telnet. There's the drop-down box. Those are all the different modes. So we're going to open up a Telnet session. There's no need to do propagation. Yes. Correct.
Say you've transmitted 25% of your message, it drops. When it reconnects automatically, does it pick up where the message
That's correct.
was broken?
That's correct. And you may want to try that RMS again, or you may want to try a different RMS. So we blinked. It already connected and disconnected. You want to go back? Yeah. Go back to maybe there. Yeah. A little further back. A little further. Okay, that's good. Okay, we're starting the Telnet session there. So you hit start. It connects and it's done. And there we didn't transmit any files, but the files go equally as fast. It's blazingly fast. And of course, that's going to be dependent on your internet connection, but even a slow connection will be fast. Okay.
Okay, Lori's going to jump back to the presentation, I think, here.
Last slide.
Yep.
So I guess here's the point for discussion. What are the next steps? These are possibilities that we've kicked around. One thing is I can create a document, or someone can create a document that would be a step-by-step process on how to open up that and start that WinLink station. A lot of that exists already in the terms course. That's the first session, which I'm happy to share with you. That there's no proprietary information there, so that would be easy. That's how to set it up, but it's an easy process. You're certainly welcome to join us in Chatham County. A lot of what we do on WinLink is done over Zoom. But some of it's done there. We'll set up a station and have people get some hands-on experience with radio if they don't have one. We could form a special interest group inside OCRA for WinLink if there's enough interest. Certainly, if you take the course, you probably should take the FEMA courses, the 100, 200, 700, 800. When you take them, it's important to take the most current version. We'll get you registered into the state database, and that'll help. That'll help documentation. That'll help your knowledge base also, because then you'll understand how emergency management operates. And then certainly to take the course, the terms course. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the question was, are the FEMA courses 1, 2, 7, and 8 still free? They are free. I have sent out a URL a couple times, which I'd be more than happy to send out again. But it should be in the history for the groups IO for OCRA DFMA a couple times.
Yep. And they're online.
Right. And what I sent out was a list, a URL to where to get them online.
Yep.
So they could just click on the URL to be right there.
The terms course is also free. You have to be registered in the state database to register, but it's free.
So item number 1 and 2, we're going to do anyway. Okay. Mike is going to put together a step-by-step process. That's kind of a block diagram. Okay. What if I'm going to start off with this blank piece of paper or this empty desk? Okay. What needs to be on top of the desk? What's the gazintas and the gazoutas? Okay. How do I plug all this stuff together? Where does the software go? How do you get to the software? If you happen to have $1,500 lying around, then you buy a backdoor modem or you get use the software. But basically it'll be a step-by-step block diagram of what it would look like, because there's an awful lot of stuff that you heard tonight, a lot of terms, a lot of stuff. But basically, as you put a few things together, you run some software, you connect to a specific destination, and stuff happens. Stuff goes out or stuff comes in. I mean, that's radically simplified, but that's probably what it is. And then also the Chatham training schedule. Any other comments, or we'll open up for questions?
If you could do FT8, you could do WinLink.
Question here on the floor. Let me walk over.
Thank you for all that, Mike. So I went up to Granville EOC probably about 2 months ago now, with some other friends who, some of them, to do some WinLink testing.
Yeah.
And we had a great time. We learned a lot. One of the biggest things that came up as a question in my mind was, during times of an emergency, things are going to be kind of hectic. So I think this is probably where the PACE plan is going to come in. But we realized the power of the peer-to-peer point-to-point P2P connectivity. It was great. It was faster. You could just have communications. You could send files. You could do whatever you want to do. It was awesome. When two peers are connected, and there's only three of us, the third person couldn't connect to either one.
That's correct.
So if you're not in the same room with each other, you're not going to know that. You're just going to keep getting connection failed, connection failed, connection failed. So in an emergency or in an event where, you know, you feel like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm going to jump on WinLink and connect to my buddy up and, you know, wherever. And you just constantly get a connection failed, connection failed, connection failed. Is this where the PACE plan would come in and everyone would know, hey, don't try to connect peer-to-peer. We're going to do it through RMS, or what if the RMSs aren't working? Or so what's your thoughts there?
If the official take on peer-to-peer is that it will not be used in AUXCOMM in North Carolina during emergency. And that's much of the reason. There are times when it's extremely helpful. I learned a lot of my early stuff on WinLink and shares through Bob Rogers. He used to be the Western North Carolina statewide or the third of the state coordinator, and he's one of the two individuals in North Carolina that you need to go through to register for shares. He told me that he was working in Costa Rica at one point and they had to get an X-ray to a distant is an hour away, but they had a radio and they had WinLink, so they made that P2P connection, and they got an X-ray sent back to them. They could send that to an expert that was there locally and help the doctor with surgery or whatever it was. It's incredibly powerful. But yes, it does. When you do that, you have to know what frequency, you have to know when to connect, and you have to know what you're sending, and you then tie up your station. So yeah, it's there. There's issues, but it's another tool.
Any questions on Zoom, Lori? Yeah, if anybody has a question on Zoom, please put it in chat. Lori's watching the chat mail to see if this. Okay. Go ahead, Ed.
I just actually wanted to add that the real power of WinLink is that you can have the internet go down over the whole Southeast, and you can still reach an RMS in Ohio, and then somebody can go pick that up from Ohio, from anywhere, not just Ohio, any RMS they can reach. So, you know, that's the real power of WinLink. You have HF communications to get emails and files wherever HF can connect, long distances.
So let me try something here, Ed and Mike, if I could. If we're providing support to either the Chatham or the Orange EOC, and we are dispatched in the field someplace to a shelter, okay, and we brought our batteries and generator if possible, and they already have that at the EOC. And if we had a WinLink station at either EOC and internet is down, power is down, to Ed's point, to get even 20 miles, we would be going through an RMS server that could be somewhere else, many thousands of miles or hundreds of miles away, instead of just going the 20 or 25 miles to the EOC. So we could still communicate with everything down.
That's correct.
Another question on Zoom. Go ahead, Wilson.
Sorry, a little distracted. Am I on the air?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Several questions. It seems to me that one would predefine communications paths to be used in an emergency. You know, certain people talk to certain places, perhaps from peer-to-peer, with peer-to-peer, and they're sort of an aggregator. You know, not everybody needs to talk to everybody. And
this is true.
I wonder about congestion. If multiple people are trying to get to relay, it's going to fill up.
Well, let's hope against it.
So if that is true, but remember, you don't always have to hit the same RMSs. So you could go to the Oxford, North Carolina RMS, and I could hit the Halifax, Nova Scotia RMS, or in fact, I've hit Mexico City, I've hit South Dakota. When I did the final exam, it was in the middle of a thunderstorm, and I had to go to Illinois, but I got everything through to Illinois. There are enough RMSs out there that pileup doesn't occur if you're sending a standard message. If you want to go to peer-to-peer, then yeah, you're going to have to wait.
So let me try that in a practical example again here in the counties. The county EOC would be logged into an RMS, and the 5 or 6 shelters would have the drop-down list of the other RMSs. If they can't get to their favorite, they go to the second favorite or third favorite, and everyone would know to do that through best practices of WinLink connectivity. And it should, yes, you may not be able to get into the first 2, 3, 4, or 5, but that drop-down list was huge. And you would go to the map and see, what's green, and just click on a green one, and then you would be there. Is that correct, Mike?
Yeah. And remember, when you're sending a message, you're going to connect to that RMS. Once you're done sending and receiving all your messages, it's going to drop, and it's going to allow the next person to connect. So it's not like you're connecting and staying online. You're connecting and then dropping.
That answer your question, Wilson?
Sorry, mostly, yeah, let's move on.
Okay. Any other questions in the room? Yes, let me walk over.
Allison, what do you mean?
Here you
go. I showed up a little late. This might have been covered, but the RMS stations. Where did you write it? Who are they maintained by? Is that
they're maintained by individuals, volunteers.
So I could run one from my house.
You can. You have to get permission from the powers that be to do that.
Understood, to participate in the network, probably.
Correct. Now, the one thing that you'll find is that I've actually inquired about doing it, and there's too many people in North Carolina and not enough people in other parts of the country. So you probably wouldn't be able to set up one that is public, because there just aren't any spots left. But there is, and I don't know all the details, but there is a way to set up one for an emergency. So you can set one up temporarily during an emergency, and as long as people know that that's an emergency only, then they could connect to you and you can provide that service.
Interesting. Understood. Thank you.
Another question here.
Those 5 major sites that you mentioned, including Halifax in Canada and Perth in Australia, if this is an international entity,
correct,
who is responsible for overall coordination?
There, and I don't know all the details of that, but there is a WinLink development team. It's well organized. It's been in existence for 20 years, probably more. That I don't know where they get their funding, but there is some funding that goes in, but most of the effort is volunteer, and it's well organized. The place to get more information about that is to go to the winlink.org website. That's how you register. That's how you download the software, but there's a ton of information on that. You can also get other maps of all the RMSs. So you can see that on a map list or on a graphical, on a tabular list. So that it's just chock full of information.
Okay, Wilson, Lori said you might have another question. Do you have another question?
Yes. It seems like there would be a real value to a short range VHF, UHF to keep things kind of local in the in the affected area. And I was a little bit confused about picking the RMS. You mentioned frequencies and the software setting up the radio. So you got to have some sort of cat control going, it sounds like.
Correct.
Which is kind of a, well, I've never done it, but I'm going to have to learn about it. Can the system pick the RMS for you? It seems like it could look at the map and find a gray one and connect you.
So that's a very good question. There is a brand new feature. I'm not a big fan of it, but it does work, where it's called an auto connect. So basically, when you log in, it's going to ask you, do you need to update or would you like to update your propagation predictions? And then what happens is if you hit the auto connect, it will look at that table and look at the first one. It'll listen, see if it's busy, so you don't, step on somebody else. If it's not busy, it'll try and make a connection. If it doesn't make the connection, it'll go to the next one and listens, tries to make the connection. If it doesn't, it'll go to the next one, and it keeps doing that till it makes a connection. So there is an auto connect. The difficulty with that is, and what I find, it's really meant for someone who doesn't have experience in that area, who doesn't have a list of favorites, because you're going to be much better off hitting a favorite than you are going through that auto list. But if you don't have a list of favorites, you're new to the area, or you don't have much experience on that, that's a good way to go.
So the auto connect goes through the entire list, not your favorites.
It'll go through the entire list.
Oh, painful. Okay, Wilson,
and it'll keep doing it until it makes a connection, and then it stops.
Wilson, do you have a follow-up? Sherry has a question.
It sounds like you cannot prioritize the search list. So, can you? So, in other words, could you limit the search to your favorites?
People have suggested that they prioritize it, and that's under advisement.
Developers have it.
You can, when it's going through that list, you can stop it in the middle and have it go to the next one, basically skip it. So that's the way you can sort of manually override it. But that's at this point in time, that's the only way that you can do it.
All right, we got one more question, and then I'd like to be able to make a couple of comments and close the meeting, because we're sitting here at 8 minutes of 9. So we're doing well. And great job, Mike. Really appreciate it. Sherry has a question. How do I participate in Chatham's WinLink Wednesdays? And that was part of what's going to be coming out as from the next steps, where you would be sending out that information to the groups IO maybe?
So we don't have a WinLinks Wednesday yet. There is a WinLink Wednesday, though, that exists in, I believe it's in Virginia. And if you do a Google search on WinLink Wednesday, you will find the information to go there, and you can register there and participate there, and they will love to have you.
What skills do you need to have to get there? Can you go as I don't know what I'm doing and watch, or do you go and you have to connect and send and receive? And
you have to connect and send and receive.
Okay.
So it's the kind of thing that once you've made your initial connection, you can fully participate.
Okay.
And the messages that they do in WinLink Wednesday are very short. It's like, what's your weather? What's your location? And that's it. It's a short message.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Okay, Mike, thank you very much. Fantastic job.